The rain-slick streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with forgotten secrets. And in that moment, as thunder cracked the sky open, Alex Reed realized he was not the man who had died in the crash back home. He was someone else entirely, breathing in a body that felt both alien and achingly familiar. His hands, callous from a life he could no longer claim, trembled as he clutched the crumpled note in his pocket. Start over. This time stay invisible. But visibility was a cruel joke in a city that thrived on hidden glances and whispered confessions, and as he stumbled into the dim glow of a corner diner, a pair of storm-gray eyes locked onto his from across the room, pulling him under like the tide he could never outrun. Those eyes belonged to Jordan Hale, the kind of man who made heartbreak look like poetry, tall with ink-black hair that fell in deliberate waves over his forehead, a jawline sharp enough to cut through the fog of Alex's rebirth. Jordan was nursing a black coffee at the counter, his sketchbook open to a half-finished drawing of the sound's restless waves. But when Alex slid onto the stool beside him, dripping and disheveled, Jordan's pencil stilled. "You look like you just crawled out of a novel no one's written yet," Jordan said, his voice low and laced with that Pacific Northwest drawl, equal parts gravel and grace. Alex forced a laugh that came out more like a choke, his mind reeling from the fragments of his old life. The sterile hospital room in rural Ohio, the screech of tires on black ice, the numb void of waking up here, 28 years old in a stranger's skin, armed with nothing but a vague inheritance and a directive from whatever cosmic force had yanked him across realities. He was supposed to lie low, blend into the rain-soaked anonymity of Capitol Hill's coffee shops and indie bookstores, far from the spotlights of romance that had torched his previous existence. But Jordan's gaze was a spotlight all its own, warm and unrelenting, stirring something deep in Alex's chest that felt dangerously like hope. "I'm just passing through," Alex muttered, signaling the bartender for whatever was strong and forgettable. Whiskey burned down his throat, grounding him in this new flesh. Lean but sturdy, with faint scars on his knuckles from fights he didn't remember winning. His reflection in the bar mirror showed a face that was boyishly handsome in a way that invited trouble. High cheekbones, a smattering of freckles across his nose, hazel eyes that shifted like autumn leaves. White, undeniably American, the kind of everyman who could vanish into a crowd or command one without trying. Jordan tilted his head, studying him with the intensity of an artist dissecting light and shadow. "Passing through Seattle? That's like saying you're skimming the ocean. Name's Jordan. You got one? Or should I just call you Rain Man?" There was no mockery in it, only a quiet invitation, the sort that made Alex's pulse stutter. In his old life, he'd been burned by charm like this, quick wit masking deeper wounds, but here in this borrowed body, he craved the connection like air after drowning. "Alex," he replied, the name feeling both right and wrong on his tongue. "Alex Reed. And yeah, I'm trying to keep it simple. New in town, crashing at a sublet in Fremont. You know how it is, chasing ghosts or whatever." He waved it off, but Jordan's eyes narrowed, catching the lie in the way Alex's fingers drummed the counter, betraying nerves he couldn't quite bury. The diner hummed around them, the sizzle of hash browns on the grill, the murmur of late-night regulars trading stories of lost jobs and found lovers, the relentless patter of rain against the fogged windows. Seattle in November was a city of layers, emerald greens hidden under gray skies, fairies cutting through mist like knives through butter, and beneath it all, a undercurrent of queer resilience that pulsed in the veins of its neighborhoods. Capitol Hill was ground zero for it. Rainbow flags fluttering defiantly in the downpour, bars like the Crescent Lounge spilling laughter and longing onto the sidewalks. Alex had chosen this place for its camouflage, a sprawling urban quilt where a man like him, reoriented, reborn, could stitch himself into the fabric without drawing blood. But Jordan was unraveling him already. "Ghosts, huh? I know a few of those. Used to sketch them down by the locks, where the salmon fight upstream like they're proving a point." He flipped his sketchbook toward Alex, revealing pages alive with motion. A fisherman in oilskins battling the wind, a pair of hands intertwined under a street lamp, fingers laced with tentative fire. Jordan was 30, an illustrator by trade, scraping by on commissions for local zines and murals that adorned the brick walls of forgotten alleys. His own ghosts lingered in the hollows of his cheeks, in the faded tattoo of a compass rose on his forearm, A reminder of a road trip gone wrong. A lover lost to the bottle years back. Alex traced the lines of one drawing with his fingertip, the paper rough under his skin. These are alive. Like they're breathing. It was more than politeness. In Jordan's art, he saw echoes of his own dislocation, the way rebirth felt like being sketched in pencil first, erasable until the ink set. Jordan's smile was slow, spreading like dawn over the Olympics. That's the goal. Make the invisible seen. You got that vibe, Alex, like you've got stories etched under your skin, waiting for the right light. He leaned closer, close enough that Alex caught the scent of charcoal and cedar, a combination that hit like a memory he hadn't earned. For a heartbeat, the diner faded and it was just them. Two strangers on the precipice of collision, the air thick with possibility. They talked until the bartender flipped the sign to closed, words flowing like the Duwamish at flood stage. Jordan shared fragments of his world, the collective he shared with roommates in a Queen and Victorian, the way he'd come out at 17 in a small Oregon town where acceptance was a punchline, the quiet thrill of his first pride in this city, marching with a sign that read, "Love's not a plot twist." Alex listened, offering half-truths in return. A vague job hunt in graphic design. A family back east he'd rather forget. He didn't mention the crash, the ethereal voice in the white light promising a second chance in a world where romance wasn't a battlefield. Or how in his past life he'd loved fiercely and lost everything. A partner who chose silence over solidarity. A community that turned its back when the pain got too real. As they stepped into the night, the rain had softened to a drizzle, streetlights haloing puddles like fallen stars. Jordan pulled a worn umbrella from his messenger bag, holding it over them both as they walked toward Alex's sublet, a third-floor walk-up in a building that creaked like it held grudges. "This city's got a way of hooking you," Jordan said, his shoulder brushing Alex's in the narrow space. "Fights back if you try to leave." Alex swallowed the lump in his throat, the proximity igniting sparks he swore he'd douse. "I'm not looking to get hooked. Just surviving." But his body betrayed him, leaning into the warmth, the easy rhythm of Jordan's stride syncing with his own. At the door, under the awning's meager shelter, Jordan hesitated, his hand lingering on Alex's arm. "Surviving's overrated. What if you tried living instead? Coffee tomorrow? My treat. There's a spot in Ballard with the best pour-over. Feels like drinking sunlight." Alex's heart hammered, a drumbeat of warning and want. He should say no, vanish into the low profile he'd promised himself. But Jordan's eyes held galaxies, and in that moment, Alex saw his own reflection there. Not a ghost, but a man worthy of the chase. "Yeah," he whispered. "Tomorrow." As Jordan walked away, silhouette fading into the mist, Alex unlocked his door and collapsed onto the lumpy futon, the note from his pocket unfurling like a confession. Stay invisible. But invisibility was a lie in a city that saw you anyway, and as sleep claimed him, dreams wove Jordan's face into the fabric of his rebirth, a thread he wouldn't cut loose. The next morning dawned with the kind of relentless gray that Seattle wore like a second skin, but Alex woke with a lightness he hadn't felt since before the end. He showered under scalding water, scrubbing away the night's chill, emerging to towel off in front of a mirror that reflected a stranger becoming familiar. The faint stubble shadowing his jaw, the way his hazel eyes caught the light like polished amber. Dressing in jeans that hugged his hips and a soft flannel shirt, Northwest uniform, he pocketed his keys and headed out, the note now tucked into a drawer like a relic. Ballard was a short bus ride away, its streets lined with craft breweries and shipyards that whispered of salt and industry. The coffee shop Jordan had mentioned, the Salish Bean, perched on a corner overlooking the canal, its windows steamed with the breath of early risers. Alex spotted Jordan immediately, hunched over a corner table with his sketchbook, sunlight, rare and golden, slanting across his profile. He looked up as Alex approached, that smile breaking like a wave. "You came," Jordan said, sliding a steaming mug across the scarred wood. "Figured you for a runner." Alex settled into the chair, wrapping his hands around the warmth. "Me? Nah. Just allergic to bad coffee." The pour-over was as promised, bright with notes of berry and earth, cutting through the fog in his veins. They fell into conversation like old allies, the hours slipping by unmarked. Jordan talked about his latest project, a mural for a community center in the Central District, depicting queer elders as guardians of the city's hidden histories. It's about reclaiming space, he explained, his fingers gesturing with passion. In a place like this where the rain washes everything clean but the scars, you have to draw your own map. Alex nodded, struck by the parallel to his own uncharted life. He shared snippets of his past, embellished tales of freelance gigs in Chicago, a coming-out story sanitized of its thorns. Omission felt like protection, a way to stay low amid the pull of Jordan's gravity. But when Jordan's knee brushed his under the table, accidental and electric, Alex didn't pull away. Instead, he let the contact linger, a silent admission that isolation was a cage he'd outgrown. By afternoon they wandered the locks, watching sea lions bark from the docks, the air sharp with brine and possibility. Jordan's hand found Alex's as they leaned on the railing, fingers intertwining with a naturalness that stole Alex's breath. "This okay?" Jordan murmured, his thumb tracing circles on Alex's skin. "More than," Alex replied, his voice rough with truth. The kiss that followed was tentative at first, lips meeting soft and searching, then deepening with the hunger of two souls recognizing home. Jordan tasted like coffee and salt, his free hand cupping Alex's neck, pulling him closer until the world narrowed to the press of bodies and the distant cry of gulls. They broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, laughter bubbling up like relief. "Well damn," Jordan said, eyes sparkling. "Welcome to Seattle, Alex Reed." That night, in the dim glow of string lights strung across Jordan's collective loft, they explored each other with the reverence of rediscovery. The space was a chaos of canvases and vinyl records, roommates' laughter filtering from the kitchen as Alex traced the lines of Jordan's body, the dip of his collarbone, the constellation of moles across his ribs, the tattoo that told tales of wandering hearts. Clothes shed like old skins, they moved together on a bed piled with quilts, hands and mouths mapping territories of want and whisper. Jordan was patient, attuned to every hitch in Alex's breath, every shadow that flickered in his eyes. "Tell me what you need," he breathed against Alex's throat, fingers threading through his hair. And Alex did in murmurs and moans, surrendering to the rhythm that built like a storm, slow swells giving way to crashing peaks, bodies slick and entangled, the air thick with the scent of sweat and cedar. Afterward, spent and sated, they lay tangled in sheets, Jordan's head on Alex's chest, heartbeat a steady lullaby. "Stay," Jordan said softly, vulnerability cracking his voice. "Not just tonight. Stay with me." Alex's throat tightened, the weight of his secret pressing like an anchor. He wanted to anchor here, in this loft with its views of the Space Needle piercing the night. But the directive echoed, "Stay low." Yet as Jordan's breathing evened into sleep, Alex pressed a kiss to his temple, whispering to the dark, "I'm trying." Days blurred into weeks, a montage of stolen moments. Lazy Sundays at Pike Place haggling over tulips and oysters. Evenings in dive bars where Jordan's friends enveloped Alex like family. Riley, the sharp-tongued bartender with a sleeve of floral tattoos, and Ethan, the quiet coder who quoted poetry over IPAs. They welcomed him without question, toasting to new chapters with shots of local rye, their easy affection a balm on Alex's fractured soul. Jordan's world was a revelation. The way he'd volunteer at the food bank in Soto, serving meals to those the city had chewed up and spat out, his compassion as fierce as his art. Alex found himself opening up, sharing dreams of designing apps for queer youth, tools for safe spaces, virtual havens in hostile lands. Jordan listened, sketching ideas on napkins, their collaboration sparking something electric. But cracks formed subtly like hairline fractures in glass. One evening as they prepped for a gallery opening in Pioneer Square, Jordan's phone buzzed incessantly. He silenced it with a grimace, but Alex caught the name. Blake Donovan. "Old flame?" Alex asked lightly, stirring risotto on the stove. Jordan's shoulders tensed. "More like a bad habit. We dated years ago, intense, messy. He's back in town for work, stirring shit." He waved it off, pulling Alex into a kiss that tasted of garlic and distraction. Alex let it go, but unease settled in his gut, a premonition of the storm brewing beyond the rain. The gallery was a cavern of exposed brick and halogen glow, Jordan's murals dominating the walls, swirling narratives of lovers defying tempests, figures intertwined in defiance of shadows. Alex hovered at the edges, nursing a gin and tonic, marveling at the crowd's murmurs of awe. Pride swelled in him, mingled with a pang. This life these people felt borrowed, yet he couldn't imagine leaving. Then Blake arrived, a whirlwind in tailored wool. 32, broad-shouldered with sun-kissed skin from Texas roots, blonde hair cropped military short, blue eyes sharp as switchblades. He was venture capital incarnate, funding startups that polish Seattle's edges for Silicon Valley appetites. Spotting Jordan, he cut through the throng like a shark scenting blood. "Jordan, hail as the muse strikes again," Blake drawled, southern lilt wrapping around the words like velvet over steel. His gaze flicked to Alex, appraising, then dismissed. "Who's the accessory?" Jordan stiffened beside Alex, arms sliding protectively around his waist. "Blake. This is Alex, my partner." "Alex Blake, old acquaintance." The air thickened, charged with history. Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Partner, huh? Cute. Jordy always did collect strays." He clapped Jordan on the back, too hard, too familiar, before turning to Alex with a predator's charm. "You ever tire of the artist's life? I could show you real ambition. Dinners at Canlis, weekends in the San Juans." Alex met his stare evenly, pulse steady despite the jab. "I'm good where I am, thanks. Art's got its own fire." But Blake's laugh lingered, a promise of interference. As the night wore on, Blake orbited them, toasting Jordan's success with champagne flutes that clinked like warnings, his anecdotes laced with barbs, reminiscences of wild nights in Austin, implications that Jordan's phase with Alex was just that. Jordan brushed it off with humor, but Alex saw the strain in his jaw, the way his sketches grew darker in the following days. One crisp December afternoon, as snow dusted the evergreens, a rarity that blanketed the city in hush, Alex confronted him over mulled wine at a holiday market in Fremont. "Talk to me about Blake." "For real?" Jordan sighed, steam curling from his mug. "He was my first real love. Or what I thought was love, passionate, possessive. When it ended, he didn't let go easy. Moved to Texas, built an empire, but now he's circling back. Says he wants to invest in my work." His fingers tightened on Alex's. "But it's not about the art. It's control." Alex's chest ached with empathy, shadows of his own losses stirring. "You don't owe him anything. We're building something here, us." Jordan's eyes softened, pulling him close amid the twinkle of lights and scent of cinnamon. "Damn right we are." Their kiss was fierce, a stake in the ground, but as they parted, Alex caught Blake's silhouette in the crowd, watching with eyes like winter frost. The new year slunk in on a tide of resolutions and regrets, Jordan's collective hosting a ragtag bash that spilled into the streets. Fireworks cracked over the sound, but Alex's mind wandered to the note in his drawer, now yellowed with neglect. Staying low had been the plan, but love had other ideas, drawing him into the fray. Blake's campaign escalated subtly. Anonymous emails to Jordan's clients, questioning his stability, chance encounters at Alex's bus stop, casual offers of friendly advice that dripped with venom. "Jordan's a dreamer," Blake said one morning, blocking Alex's path with his sleek Audi idling curbside. "You'll burn out carrying him. I could make you both shine. Real money, real security." Alex's temper flared, fists clenching. "We're not for sale. Back off." He shoved past, heart pounding, but Blake's laughter followed like a curse. Jordan withdrew, the spark in his art dimming to embers. Late nights found him staring at blank canvases, murmuring apologies. Alex waved away. "It's not you," Jordan insisted, but doubt crept in, a thief in the night. Then came the betrayal, sharp as shattered glass. It unfolded on a rain-lashed Valentine's evening, Alex returning early from a design meetup to find the loft door ajar, voices murmuring within. He froze in the threshold, the scene etching itself like acid. Jordan and Blake on the couch, not touching but close, too close, Blake's hand on Jordan's knee, words tumbling low and urgent. "You know you missed this," Blake was saying, voice honeyed poison. The stability. Alex is sweet, but he's transient. I saw the way you looked at him like he's a placeholder. Jordan's head bowed, conflict carving lines in his face. It's not that simple. I love him, Blake. But, God, the pressure. The what-ifs. Alex's world tilted, the room spinning in a vortex of hurt. Reborn to avoid this, and here it was, the specter of inadequacy, the fear that his borrowed life couldn't hold against the pull of the familiar. He backed away, silent as a ghost, fleeing into the storm where rain masked the sting of tears. He wandered the waterfront, the Ferris wheel's lights blurring through the downpour, each step a hammer to his resolve. The note burned in his pocket now, retrieved in haste. Stay invisible. But visibility had brought him Jordan, and losing that felt like dying twice. Hours later, soaked to the bone, he returned to an empty loft, Jordan's sketchbook open to a frantic page, scrawled with "I'm sorry" in looping script. A voicemail waited, Jordan's voice broken. Alex, it wasn't what it looked like. Blake cornered me, twisted everything. Please come back. I choose you every time. Doubt warred with desire, but Alex's phone buzzed again. A text from Riley. Blake's full of shit. Jordan kicked him out, told him to rot. Get your ass home, lover boy. Relief flooded him, chased by resolve. He hailed a cab through the gale, arriving to Jordan pacing the floor, eyes red-rimmed. They collided in the doorway, arms wrapping tight, apologies spilling like confessions. I thought I was losing you, Alex gasped, face buried in Jordan's neck. Never, Jordan vowed, hands framing Alex's face. Blake's a shadow. You're the light. They made love that night with desperate tenderness, reclaiming each inch of skin, each breath a promise. But the fracture lingered, a reminder that love in this city was as volatile as its weather, fierce, fleeting, forged in fire. Spring unfurled in reluctant blooms, cherry blossoms carpeting the U District like confetti from a half-remembered parade. Alex threw himself into his app, collaborating with Ethan on code that mapped safe houses and support lines, Jordan illustrating icons that pulsed with hope. Their rhythm steadied, deepened. Mornings tangled in sunlight, evenings walking Gasworks Park, hands linked against the skyline's jagged teeth. Blake's shadow persisted, a low hum of sabotage funding pulled from Jordan's mural project, whispers in art circles painting him as unreliable. But community proved armor. Riley rallied the bar crowd for a benefit show, proceeds earmarked for the work. Ethan hacked back subtly, exposing Blake's shady dealings in a viral thread that trended on local forums. Through it, Alex confronted his secret, the weight too heavy to carry alone. One twilight hike in Discovery Park, waves crashing below like applause, he told Jordan everything. The crash, the light, the rebirth into this skin, this chance. Words poured out, raw and unfiltered, fear twisting his gut. Jordan listened without interruption, face a mask of wonder and ache. When Alex finished, silence stretched, broken only by the sea's roar. Then Jordan pulled him close, lips brushing his temple. That doesn't change us. If anything, it makes you braver. My Alex, reborn, but always you. Tears came then, hot and healing, as they sank to the damp earth, bodies aligning in quiet affirmation. No grand gestures, just the steady beat of hearts sinking. A love that withstood the unraveling. Yet climax brewed in summer's heat, Blake's desperation peaking at the mural unveiling in the Central District. The wall, a riot of color depicting intertwined figures rising from ashes, drew hundreds. Elders sharing stories, youth snapping photos, the air electric with pride. Alex stood beside Jordan, pride swelling as applause thundered. Blake crashed it like a wrecking ball, suit rumpled, eyes wild with gin-fueled rage. This is theft, he bellowed, shoving through the crowd to jab a finger at Jordan. You think you can erase me? I made you. Security moved in, but not before Blake whirled on Alex, venom spilling. And you, some drifter playing house. He came back to me last month crying in my hotel. Said you're just a pity fuck. Gasps rippled, heads turning. Jordan paled, but Alex stepped forward, voice steady as steel. Lies don't stick here, Blake. We see you empty, grasping. Jordan's not yours to claim. The crowd murmured agreement, phones capturing the unraveling. Blake lunged, fist raised, but Jordan intercepted, taking the glancing blow to his shoulder. Chaos erupted, shouts, flashes, until cops hauled Blake away, his empire cracking under the weight of exposure. In the aftermath, as medics checked Jordan's bruise, Alex knelt beside him, hands trembling. "I can't lose you to this." Jordan cupped his cheek, thumb wiping a stray tear. "You won't. We're unbreakable." Fall returned, leaves turning the parks to fire, and with it, renewal. Blake's downfall was swift. Lawsuits from jilted partners, his firm crumbling like dry clay. He vanished to Austin, a cautionary tale whispered in bars. Alex and Jordan's love matured, roots delving deep. A joint show at the Fry, where Alex's app debuted alongside Jordan's art, users flocking to share stories of self-discovery. They adopted a rescue mutt named Sage, walks along the Burke-Gilman Trail becoming rituals of quiet joy. One eve atop Cary Park with the city sprawling below, Jordan dropped to one knee, ring glinting. A simple band etched with waves. "Marry me, Alex. Not because of rebirths or battles, but because you're my horizon." Tears blurred the vista as Alex pulled him up, kissing him fierce and free. "Yes. Always." In the years that followed, their story wove into Seattle's tapestry. A home in Wallingford with a studio garden, children by choice, fostered boys with eyes full of questions, answered in hugs and honesty. Alex's app went national, a beacon for the lost. Jordan's murals spanned bridges, symbols of resilience. Rebirth had been the spark, but love the flame. Fierce, forgiving, a testament that in the fight for self, compassion wins. They fought, they fell, they rose. Two men bound not by fate's cruel hand, but by the choice to see each other whole. And in the rain that never truly stopped, they danced.